Welcome to Herbally Yours, an adventure into the world of natural medicine. Here is your host, Dr. Ellen Kamai, the natural nurse who will help you take the leap to ultimate wellness.
Greetings, and thank you for joining me, Ellen Kamai, the natural nurse, for another edition of Herbally Yours, right here on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. Listen live on air while you're running around your kitchen with your old radio on. Really? I do. Or online at iHeartRadio, Odyssey, TuneIn app, smart speakers, nccradio.org, or download our own WHPC app. Or go on your phone and look at that little square that says podcast. Just click on that and type in Herbally Yours. You will see the insignia come up for 90.3 WHPC, and it'll say Herbally Yours. Download that, and then you'll have all of our shows. I think we have hundreds of them accessed that you can listen to at your convenience. Herbally Yours brings you the latest information about the many facets in the world of natural living. And today we are so happy to have as our guest Hally Brooke. Hally is the founder and CEO of Live Nourished Coaching. She is a certified functional medicine nutrition counselor, nationally board certified health and wellness coach, and a Fox 21 fitness and nutrition expert, as well as a fierce industry advocate. So you can find her links also on our archive after the show, or you can find her at livenourishedcoaching.com. And she's also on Instagram and LinkedIn and all the usual places that you find people. So thank you so much, Hally, for being our guest today.
Ellen, it's wonderful to be here. Thank you for having me.
Now, what led you on your journey to become interested in nutrition?
Yeah, it's a great question. I love that question. The short version is, so I grew up with parents in Boulder, Colorado, who are very nutrition conscious, and I'm so grateful for that. They taught me a lot. And then I thought I was going to be a doctor. So went to pre-med, graduated, decided to do Teach for America for 2 years, which turned into a 9-year stint teaching math kind of in the inner city. During that time, I got super sick and I ended up with IBS and gas and bloating and also a bunch of weird symptoms, like my arms would go numb and I had rashes all over. I mean, just weird stuff. We saw a bunch of doctors. No one could figure out what was going on. And so I kind of stumbled my way into functional medicine, looking for answers for myself, going, I cannot survive on chicken and lettuce for the rest of my life. And I cannot keep living being this sick. I got shingles at 24, just like weird stuff. Found functional medicine, and through functional medicine and prayer, I'm completely healed. Like I have no symptoms. I can eat whatever I want. And so fell in love with that, left teaching, went back to school, got a degree in functional medicine, and started my own practice.
And I think one of the things that many people who do wind up finding themselves in functional medicine is that it's very fulfilling, because if people do come to you, they probably feel better in somewhat short order. I'm not talking about curing severe illnesses, but certainly just feeling better overall is absolutely in their reach.
Yes, 100%. And because my focus is, I'm a health coach. So we don't give medical advice, but we do help people feel better is exactly what we do. And I think the power in that is that so much of functional medicine is lifestyle change. You know, it's not like going to the doctor and here's the pill that's going to fix the thing. We need to change the way that you eat, and we need to change the way that you think. And we need to adjust the way that you move.
It's not we, it's them. Right?
It's them. Yeah. So accurate. So accurate. It's them. And that's so true. And what I saw, part of the reason that I decided to go down the health coach route versus another route is, you know, my own personal knowledge of nutrition and exercise and movement and blah, blah, blah is only as good as the person on the other end doing those things. Right. And I can't be in their kitchen with them on a Tuesday helping them choose food. And so that psychology and behavior change of health coaching paired with the functional medicine knowledge is as close to a silver bullet, I feel like, as you can get.
And isn't it, you know, to me, having done holistic medicine now for 60 years,
wow,
I find that it's really fulfilling that this works. I mean, do you know that I'm actually involved with the NIH, and I've been on a committee on the NIH, which is talking about promoting the concept of food is medicine and food as medicine, because the evidence is there. It's completely 1,000% proven that having a healthier lifestyle alleviates a lot of health issues and should actually be, even with a conventional physician, the very first intervention that is used. And then drugs and surgery, we don't throw them out. Once in a while, we need them if this doesn't work first. And that's really the way it should go. But I bet you get a lot of people who are now looking for the nutritional support you provide, and they're looking at it as the last thing they're trying.
Yes, 100%. There's a quote from Dr. James D. Nicolantonio that I love, that I think sums up everything you just said. It says, if your doctor prescribes you medication without first asking you about your diet, your sleep, your exercise routine, your water consumption, whether or not you have structural issues and the stress in your life, you don't have a doctor, you have a drug dealer. And I love that. I think it's so accurate. Are medications and surgeries a good, beautiful thing? Yes, they are, and we need them. And you're right. People come to us. We are more often the last resort. Every once in a while, we get a client who I call them future thinking, is thinking about prevention and wanting to optimize their health. And those clients are so fun. But most of the time, we are the last resort. We are I have tried every doctor. I have tried every supplement. I have tried every medication, and I'm still feeling horrible. Can you fix me? I'm like, well, maybe. But very likely, yes.
So where do you start with someone like that? Do you get them to give you like a food diary, or where do you start?
Yeah. So we start with actually we call it a birth till now intake. So we do an intake. It usually takes an hour with our clients, and we literally go from the moment they popped out of the womb, and sometimes even before that, to now. And we're asking them things like, how often have you been on antibiotics, and what was the stress in your life? And we're looking for the whole picture of the whole human, from what they eat, how they move, the stress in their life, the relationships in their life, any kind of past trauma. And we're getting this really solid picture of how they got to where they're at, so that we're not just playing whack-a-mole with symptoms. We're really looking for root causes. And then from there, then we do what we call a food, mood, poop journal, which is a food journal, but it's a food journal on steroids. And so we have them track for a week what they're eating, their mood, their energy level at certain points throughout the day, and what's coming out of their body. And that gives us a really solid picture of how their body is processing food, both physically and chemically. And it's fun. Our clients usually think that's for us, but really it's for them. And so the first question we ask them once they've done that food, mood, poop journal is, what did you notice? And every single time someone goes, man, well, when I eat this for lunch, I feel horrible after. And we go, oh, yeah. Okay, let's start there. So we do those two things. And then from there, we kind of outline what we call a lifestyle functional medicine game plan for them. And I like to describe that like a stack of stepping stones from Home Depot. We're going to say, okay, these are the things that probably need to happen in order to move you from health to wellness. And it's going to be things like, maybe a gut healing protocol, or an elimination food plan, or reducing the stress in your life and finding mindfulness. And then we're going to hand them those stepping stones and say, okay, now this can be really overwhelming because it's a lot, and it's a lot of lifestyle changes, but we're going to take it one stepping stone at a time. And we're going to slowly, over the course of 6 months to a year, build you a path, not only from illness to health, but then we're going to keep going and go from health to wellness.
So that I really think makes a lot of sense, because to say, take these supplements and everything's going to be fine is not it.
Yeah, exactly.
It has to be a whole lifestyle change. And your recommendation of looking at it as a path to wellness, which is going to take, logically, at least a year. But within a year, you can feel absolutely fabulous. And sometimes within a few weeks. But there also are things like, let's say you find out it might be best for that person to eliminate wheat. That's traumatic. What if their mother was Italian and everything was pasta? So now we're at such a crossroads. And then they always say, everyone that I've worked with, say, what do I eat if I don't eat wheat?
Yes. And that is where the lifestyle coaching and the health coaching is such a big deal, because eliminating wheat is what they need to do, and all they have in their cabinet is Oreos and spaghetti, that's all they know how to eat. It's not just a matter of, okay, we're going to eliminate wheat. It's a matter of learning to eat in a completely different way, learning to grocery shop in a completely different way, learning to pay attention to ingredients in a way that you hadn't before, learning to ask your server if the salad dressing has flour in it. I mean, it's a whole, that one thing opens up 7 different, fairly comprehensive lifestyle changes that need to happen. And so often people can get so overwhelmed by that. And so we break it down and we step it out.
However, since we brought up wheat, I have actually found that in really close to 90% of people feel so much better if they take that one step. And also, let's say you're not at all wheat sensitive and you do eliminate it and you don't feel any differently. Okay. And that's rare, very rare. But if it happens, what is the side effect to trying?
Absolutely nothing.
Right, exactly.
The only thing that's going to come out of that is a benefit or something neutral. I mean, I try really hard not to say the words always or never because I feel like they're usually pretty inaccurate. But I think this would be a case to say never. It will never hurt you to eliminate gluten. There are some studies that say, when people eliminate gluten, they can have issues with vitamin B deficiency and some of these other things, and that wheat has nutrients in it that we need. And that's true. Wheat is a food that has nutrients in it, but we can get those nutrients from so many other sources that eliminating wheat is absolutely not going to hurt you, and it will very likely help you.
And we often, because I worked in a medical office where we did a lot of the same things you do, and I worked there for 23 years as the head nurse. So we would include some sophisticated testing, such as an IgG food allergy profile, which is great, but it's not covered by insurance. So it's about $300 to $400. Fine. That helps you zero in on those things you're sensitive. But also another way to go is what you're recommending. Just look at your food diary and then try eliminating some foods.
Exactly. And in functional medicine, we actually say the gold standard for sussing out food allergies is the elimination food plan, because a lot of times blood tests will either give you a false positive or they won't catch something.
That's
and
true.
So, yeah, the elimination food plan, if you want to know what your food allergies are or your food sensitivities, the elimination food plan is the way to figure it out.
So what if, let's say the top 3 allergens in terms of food, let's say, we have found certainly wheat and dairy. Those are some big ones. So trying to eliminate them all at once is pretty challenging.
It can be. Yeah, for sure. We have 2 different ways that we walk clients into that. So if doing an elimination food plan is part of their kind of roadmap or their stepping stones, we put on health coach hat and we say, okay, this is something that is very likely going to help you feel better. Here's 2 ways you can do it. Which one fits with your personality? You can go all in. Here's the list of things that we need to take out. And if you go, I want to go all in, I want to take them all out at the same time, because sometimes for some people that's easier.
Right.
Then we say, great, here's the list. Here's a bunch of recipes. Here's a grocery shopping list. Here's all the resources that you could possibly need to eliminate everything at the same time. Let's do that. And then some people go, holy cow, you just cut out everything I eat. And we say, okay, so I want you to look at this list. And I want you to pick one thing that you could pay attention to consciously removing this week. And then we remove that. And then the next week we say, okay, now we've normalized that. So we've figured out how to eat without, say, gluten. Now let's try to remove dairy. And oftentimes we'll start with something a little easier. Sometimes we'll say, okay, let's reduce sugar for the week, because that's an easier one to remove. And so we just step it in one step at a time. And that means that healing plan for them is going to take longer, because if we still have things in there that are hurting them, it's going to take longer to get better. But it makes it doable.
Right.
And making it doable is the most important thing.
Well, thank you so much. And let's reintroduce you to our listeners. You are listening to Herbally Yours on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. Listen live online at nccradio.org or on iHeartRadio or any other podcast venue. For more information on today's guest or topic, you can email us at whpc@ncc.edu. We are speaking today with Hally Brooke. She is the founder and CEO of Live Nourished Coaching, and you can find her at livenourishedcoaching.com, and she's giving us some great information on how you can feel so much healthier. So what about that gut-brain connection? I know you know quite a bit about that, and it's the buzz in the news these days. So what can you share with us about that?
Ellen, that is my favorite thing to talk about. The gut-brain connection that's my specialty. That's where I study the most. And I just think it's fascinating. So here's a couple of fun functional medicine facts, and then I'll tell you a story. So fun functional medicine facts. We know now that 90% of our serotonin, which is that happy hormone, is created in our gut. So when we're dealing with someone who has depression from a Western medicine standpoint, they usually go to the doctor and they get an SSRI or an SNRI. There's two problems with that. One, so first of all, I'm a big fan of antidepressant medicine. I think it's a life-saving medicine, and sometimes it's needed. But the problem with prescribing an SSRI, instead of looking at the underlying root cause, is an SSRI is a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, meaning whatever amount of serotonin a person's body is already creating, it just prevents their body from reabsorbing that so that their brain can keep using the serotonin that they already have. It doesn't help them produce more. And when someone is dealing with anxiety or depression, they have a serotonin, norepinephrine, and dopamine deficiency. And so instead of actually addressing that deficiency, which is, okay, well, why are you not producing enough serotonin, norepinephrine, and dopamine in the first place? We're just making their body keep recycling and reusing what they already have. And so when we take a step back and we look at, okay, if 95% of your serotonin is created in your gut, then this is more of a gut problem than a brain problem. Is there probably trauma and circumstances and things that counseling can help? Yes, absolutely. And we have direct partnerships with counselors for that. But let's look at why your gut is not producing what we need it to produce in the first place. I would say of our clients, the people who come to us who have GI issues, so gas, bloating, and then the way that gut issues manifest, acne, psoriasis, eczema, I would say at least 75% of them would also say they're dealing with anxiety and depression. And I would say of the clients who come to us dealing with anxiety and depression, I would say that 90% of them have gut issues. And so we say, okay, well, let's look at repairing that epithelial lining. Let's look at balancing your microbiome so that your gut is producing what we need it to produce. And without fail, we heal people's guts and their anxiety and their depression symptoms lessen, if not go away altogether.
I know.
Which is crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah. And it's shocking. You mentioned some, let's not even talk about psychological kinds of issues, just skin health. Like you brought up acne and psoriasis. But what dermatologist discusses gut health with their clients? And what you're talking about is so well documented in mainstream medical literature.
Yes, it really is. What your skin is doing is a direct indication of what is happening on the inside of your body. This is so funny. I had a friend show me Dr. Pimple Popper.
You know what? I can't stand watching it, but it's a huge show. It's a huge show.
And every single person on that show, if you look at them, their skin is gray. Their skin is, I'm like, oh my gosh, I could fix that for you. Like, wait, we don't need to pop that zit. Maybe we do, but we need to figure out what's going on inside because you are so unhealthy. Acne, eczema, psoriasis, every single one of those is linked to chronic inflammation, which is almost always linked to gut health. And, we had a client who came to us probably 6 months ago now who had such bad acne. She was in her mid 30s. Like you should not have acne in your mid 30s. Had such bad acne, they were going to put her on Accutane. She started on Accutane and started getting ringing in her ears, which is actually a pretty common side effect of Accutane, losing your hearing. Like that sounds horrible. Good job. You don't have pimples anymore, but you can't hear. No, thanks. Not a trade I would like to make. So she got on Accutane, started losing her hearing, started getting ringing in her ears. So got off Accutane and, obviously everything is still a mess. So she came to us, gut healing protocol, hormone balancing protocol. 3 months later, she's acne free. Like, oh my gosh, you're in your 30s and we just figured this out. It's mind-boggling to me. But it's also so easy.
It's easy, but it's not easy. I mean, it's simple once you have that understanding.
Yes.
But my question is, someone could come to you, to Hally, Brooke, and of course, I'm sure you do virtual work.
Yes,
so if people aren't in your office, they could still work with you through livenourished.coaching.com. And why, though, you're reading scientific studies. You didn't make this up. Why doesn't every dermatologist discuss this?
Gosh, Ellen, I feel like that is such a massive topic. I feel like there's a couple of reasons. I feel like, if we wanted to dip our toes into the political piece, I think there's a big piece of, the way that MDs are trained, and it's not really their fault. MDs are trained to see a problem and prescribe a pill like that. Those are just the lenses that they're wearing. Versus I see a problem and my immediate response is nutrition and lifestyle. It's the same thing, the lenses that I'm wearing. So I think that's a huge piece, is our system is designed around prescribing pharmaceuticals. I think that's the big one. I think the next big one, why doctors aren't talking about this, is people want a pill. When people go to a doctor, they don't want to change their lifestyle. A lot of times they want a quick fix, silver bullet solution. And a lot of times a pharmaceutical is that quick fix, silver bullet solution. And people ignore the fact that that pharmaceutical has, 15 different side effects that are worse than the problem was in the first place. But they want that quick fix solution. And then I think the third problem is, our kind of traditional Western medicine system is set up for 15 to 30 minute appointments. And in
Are you kidding? Where do you go? It's usually 7 or 8 minutes.
Oh my gosh. Okay, even worse. So 7 or 8 minutes. In that 7 or 8 minutes that you have with your doctor, even if it's 15 or 30, it's still not enough. That there's absolutely no time to talk about lifestyle changes. Like, we work with people on a bi-monthly or weekly basis with long appointments to help them understand how to make these lifestyle changes. And doctors just don't have time to do that. Like, best case scenario, a doctor would be able to say, like, hey, I want you to try cutting out dairy. That's it. Right. Like, that's all the time that they have. So all of those factors combined, the lenses that doctors are trained to wear, the power that the pharmaceutical system has over our medical system, and the fact that doctors just don't have time to have these actual conversations with clients. I think all of those play into it. And, even though it's published research, even though it's, to be totally honest, common knowledge, our system is designed around the pill, and that's it.
Well, that's absolutely true. So it's wonderful that you have this training, particularly in functional medicine, about how to balance someone's, let's say, microflora, but the individual has to be willing to take the reins to make the change. And
exactly.
You did talk about shopping and cooking, and that's challenging to many people. How I manage it is I only do that. I'm extremely busy, and I've been doing healthy lifestyle my whole life. I only do it once a week. A lot of stuff now I get delivered because of our new everything comes delivered, right? But all fresh food, and I cook really on Sunday morning, and that's it. And I make a lot of meals and then pre-freeze them for myself. And then I take them out and have them ready the next day. Just fresh would be better, but just fresh isn't going to happen with my schedule. But I still can have all really fresh, mostly organic food every day by a little pre-planning.
Yep, exactly. And that's really all it takes, is it takes a little bit of pre-planning and a little bit of thought. But even that little bit of pre-planning and that little bit of thought is a fairly monumental change for most people.
That's true. Yeah. So if I want to eat, I want to have good, healthy, organic food ready to grab and go, or grab and warm, or just have it at home. You can't start thinking about it and then have to go shopping and cook when you're hungry.
No. You'll eat a bag of chips. It's funny. I actually love what you said. You cook on Sunday and then you order a lot of food, because I think this is a great tip for anybody, if you're a human, but also for your listeners. One of the things that we talk to our clients about are non-negotiables. And so we set baseline non-negotiables. So we have, what does nourished nutrition look like? What does nourished movement look like? What does nourished relationships look like? And what does nourished mind and spirit look like? And then we set absolute baselines. These are not kind of our striving goals. These are the baselines. These are the basics. And so around food, I was working with a client a couple of weeks ago and I said, what would you like your baseline for nourished nutrition to look like? And she goes, I would like my baseline to look like I have a home cooked meal 4 days a week. And then, I'm eating out with friends the other couple days. I said, okay, great. Her life is not designed for that right now. She has a crazy job. She's working probably over 100 hours a week. She has 2 kids. Her husband is deployed, right? So, okay, our baseline is to have 4 homemade meals a week, but you barely have time to go to the bathroom right now. So you're probably not going to be cooking. So that does not mean that our baseline needs to change. It means that we need to adjust the way that we do things. So I asked her, I was like, would you be open to doing some of these kind of meals in a box or meal kits or things that take some of the shopping and the thinking out of it? And she goes, gosh, I've always felt like those are a cop out. And I said, I totally can understand how you could see it that way. And you're telling me that your baseline is one thing, but your ability to implement that baseline is another thing. So we either have to change your baseline or we have to change the way that you're implementing that baseline. And she goes,
oh, that makes sense. Yeah,
that makes sense. And we said, so if you're not able to spend the time to do that, we might need to reallocate some financial resources to that. And so we ended up finding her a chef here in town who does all 100% natural organic meals and delivers them to people's houses. Amazing.
And that sounds expensive, but it's not, especially if you don't eat out as much.
Exactly. It ended up being, I think it was like $125 a week. And I asked her how much she spent on groceries. She was like, I usually spend $500 on groceries.
There you go.
And I said, okay, so we actually just ended up saving you money and we hit your baseline. Are you making those meals yourself? No. But are you eating 4 home cooked, organic, real food meals a week? Yes, you are. Well, and once we get a different job, then we have some different options.
Thank you so much for all that great information. And thank you for being our guest, Hally, Brooke, and you can find her at livenourishedcoaching.com. And thank you, listeners, for tuning into Herbally Yours, produced in the studios of 90.3 WHPC, Nassau Community College, Garden City, New York. For further information, email whpc@ncc.edu. This is your host, Ellen Kamai at naturalnurse.com, inviting you to join us next week for another edition of Herbally Yours. Until then, stay healthy.